No one cheated, no clothes came off, but the desire was real, and it changed everything. That's what our guest wants everyone to know up front. Tonight's story isn't about whether something happened, it's about how close it came to happening and how much damage almost can do. Welcome back to the Almost Lovers Club. I'm Ashley. Our caller tonight is Nina. Nina, welcome.
Thank you, Ashley. I already feel exposed.
That means we're in the right place. This is a place where you can feel comfortable feeling that way. Who is this story about?
My sister's husband.
Okay, take your time.
His name is Julian. They've been married 12 years. 2 kids. A life that looks complete. I moved in with them temporarily after my divorce. Just 6 months. That's all it took.
When did you first feel the shift?
It wasn't immediate. It was more because of with proximity, I think. It started with late nights, shared routines. He'd pour me and my sister glasses of wine after the kids went to bed. My sister would always go to bed early because she has to wake up early for work. When she left, he'd pour me another glass, saying I needed it for all that I was going through. We'd sit too close on opposite ends of the same couch for a better vantage point watching TV. Nothing inappropriate, just aware. Awareness is
Dangerous. Was it you being aware, him, or both of you?
right. It was definitely a two-way street. I was sure as hell aware, and so was he. Julian had always only had eyes for my sister. He looks at her differently. Rightfully so. He'd always looked at me differently than he looked at my sister. His looks had changed, as in the way he looked at me. He didn't look at me like a sister-in-law anymore. His looks became just longer, like he was remembering himself. I had to test it, right? And I did. I wore things I knew he'd notice, stayed in the room a little longer than necessary. I wanted confirmation that it wasn't just in my head. And you got it. Oh, I got it. The looks stopped being accidental. The silences got heavy. Once, just once, his hand brushed my waist in the kitchen. Not a grab, a pause, long enough that we both knew. What did you feel in that moment, Nina? I guess the question should be, what did his body language say to me when he touched me so blatantly? I felt the yearning. His touch said that he wanted me. And what terrified me, which is how I felt, by the way, was how much I wanted him to want me.
That's the moment most lines are crossed.
I agree. In our case, instead, we started dancing around it. Long eye contact, conversations that felt intimate but innocent enough to defend. Like him making comments like, my ex-husband must have been crazy going ahead with the divorce and letting a sexy woman like me go. Harmless comments, but with undertones of how he saw me. I liked how he saw me. Julian is the same age as me, so we could talk for hours about things like music and moves from our time in high school. He told me things he didn't tell my sister, about feeling unseen, about missing desire that wasn't routine, you know? And you became the mirror. Right. I'm fiercely loyal to my sister. We've always taken care of each other. She's my closest sibling. The thought of betraying her love and trust after taking me in at my lowest moment was always on my mind. I was not a fool. I could see what was happening.
Nina, where was your sister when all this was happening?
She was around and not around at the same time, if you know what I mean. She was being a mom, doing what she loves best, looking after the kids, looking after the house. Even when I offered to help with anything, she insisted she had it. I was only allowed to cook, something that Julian did because he worked from home. We sort of bonded over the cooking a little bit as well. It sounds like opportunities to connect were there for you two. There were. One afternoon, we were alone, the house quiet. I usually woke up late because I'd stopped working. I was in my feelings about the divorce and everything that was going on in my life at the time. I was making a cup of coffee when he came into the kitchen. He stood very close to me. He held onto the counter behind me and leaned in. I could feel his breath change as he looked into my eyes. For one suspended second, I thought, if he kisses me, I won't stop it. But he didn't. No. He stepped back, ran his hand through his hair, looking me in the eyes. He put the left side of my face in his right hand and used his thumb to rub my cheek. He said, "We can't." The way he said it, like it hurt him, was almost worse than if he'd crossed the line. He smiled slightly, turned around, and left. I suppose at that point, the desire was mutual, and it felt very much unfulfilled. That's a very honest thing to admit, right? After that, everything changed. The tension was thick, charged. Every shared space felt erotic. Every accidental touch felt intentional. We were aroused by restraint.
But you both knew how it ends.
I hated myself for it. I loved my sister, still do, but desire doesn't care about loyalty.
How did it end?
Well, before I get to that, I have to tell you about the day that made me realize things could not stay as they were. I'd started leaving the house in the afternoons and rediscovering the things I loved to do before I'd gotten married, and for many reasons no longer did. I'd just come out of the bath, was drying my hair, and decided to quickly grab an extension cord so I could do that from my balcony. The storage closet was just across the dining room and not very far from my room. Yes, as my terrible luck would have it, I bumped right into Julian and knocked his water bottle right out of his hand. He stood there and laughed while I was busy apologizing. Julian grabbed some paper towels and helped me dry the floor. He was laughing at me the whole time, saying, "It's okay, I can go, and he'll clean things up." I crouched down in an attempt to clean up the mess, and my towel I was holding with the other hand became undone and almost fell off. I was wearing nothing underneath. Julian stood up and gave me his right hand to help me up. What happened next is a little bit of a blur, I remember we were both laughing, then he was holding me to him. His lips tasted so sweet, and his prickly mustache pleasant. We just crashed into each other. I could feel his hand going up my leg until he was cupping my ass. I couldn't recognize the gazillion emotions running through me. I could feel how hard he was and how much he wanted me. I was so wet for him, I think I must have literally already started dripping. That sounds like an intense moment. What happened next? We kissed. It felt like we were in that moment for a long time. Julian, it felt, didn't want to move past that point. I kind of respect him for that because, I don't know if he had scooped me up into his arms or if the towel had come off, I would have been able to do what he did. At some point, he just removed his hand from my ass and pulled back. He laughed slightly as if trying to make light of the situation and said, "You're trouble." He held my chin in his hand, planted a kiss on my lips, and said, "Go." I turned around, tightening my towel, and ran back to my room. What happened next? Well, that was the beginning of the end of my stay with my sister and her family. I moved out early, packed my things quietly. On my last night, he hugged me goodbye, longer than necessary, and whispered, "If things were different." He didn't finish the sentence.
Do you think about him? Do I think about him? That's the cruelest part of forbidden desire. It shows you a life you can never ethically choose. I think about him a lot, but not because I want to act on things. It's more with regret. And relief, of course. I also have to admit, I pleasure myself some nights thinking about him. That just tells you where my love life is at the moment. Some lines aren't crossed, not because we don't want to, but because crossing them would destroy too many people we love. And sometimes the bravest act of love is walking away while your body is still begging you to stay.
That's very true. There were a lot of lessons learned.
And there have been a lot of lessons learned by our audience as well. Thank you so much for sharing your story, Nina.
Thank you so much for allowing me to tell it. It's a story about an almost lover that really couldn't be my lover.
This has been the Almost Lovers Club. I'm Ashley, and today, remember, just because the desire was mutual doesn't mean it was meant to be lived. Goodbye.